Hey there, and welcome back to the Life with Old Dogs podcast. I had hoped to be a little further along in this season by now, season number 7. But we had some family things taking place that needed my hands-on attention. And yeah, family first. So I'm backed up a little bit by a week, but that's okay. That's okay. If I didn't say anything, you probably wouldn't even know. All right, so before we start moving on to home cooked foods, there is this episode here, and it is called Dog Food Label Decoder, Spotting the Good from the Bad. So basically, I'm going to be breaking down dog food labels, which I don't know if you know this or not, but the dog food industry is largely unregulated, which can be pretty darn scary for many of us, especially considering dogs are, for many of us, our family, and for some people, even their children, their furry children. So that's really pretty scary to think that the food they're eating is coming from a largely unregulated money-making industry. So, yikes. But ironically enough, the labels on the bag are very, very regulated and very monitored and must be precise. Okay? With shades of gray. So, basically, reading dog food labels can be as clear as a septic tank. True story. All right, let's start. Let's start with who regulates the pet food industry. It is actually the FDA, okay, the Food and Drug Administration, who regulates the pet food industry. So most people think it's AAFCO who regulates the pet food industry. AAFCO is the Association of American Feed Control, and their officials actually have no authority over the pet food industry regulation of. So I'm going to read you something that is taken from the Truth About Pet Food website, which is phenomenal. If you have not checked it out, check it out. It's called the Truth About Pet Food website, and I'll be sure to include their website information in the show notes for this. But this is taken right from their website. The Association of American Feed Control Officials has no regulatory authorization over pet food. AAFCO is an independent organization consisting of the State Department of Agriculture and FDA members. AAFCO writes model bills, which are typically accepted as law, state law. However, not all states accept that. AAFCO has established the nutritional requirements of cat and dog food to meet a complete and balanced claim. Has established legal definitions of all pet food, animal feed ingredients, and labeling requirements of pet food. Not public information owned by AAFCO. Okay, so basically this organization, which is a private organization, is basically setting all the guidelines for the pet food industry, good, bad, or indifferent. And I don't know if you know this or not, but pet food companies are permitted to join AAFCO. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but I don't think I like that. I think I'm not feeling too good about that. That's kind of like letting the fox in the hen house, if you ask me. So just my thought. Okay, so let's back up a little here. Let's talk about their legal definitions, their own legal definitions, right? I'm going to read something else here to you from the same site that I was just telling you about. So they have their own definitions of ingredients for dog food, which may not be what you or I would think the definitions should be. For example, and I'm reading this here. For example, cows become beef because they die in a slaughterhouse, and then they're either labeled for human consumption or they're they're contaminated. Mikey, one of the sanctuary kitties here, he likes to get in on the videos here. So whatever goes to contamination goes into animal feed. All right, that's so. And when we talk about contamination, it could be pretty bad, or it could be like a tumor on a leg of the cow that didn't get accepted for human consumption. So it got nixed and went to the contamination side, if you will, of the slaughterhouse. But that doesn't mean that the whole cow is sick. There's still probably good meat on there that could be used. So it's not all bad, but here's the kicker. AFCO says for feed, pet food, cows don't have to die via slaughter. They can already be dead from disease. And then that's going into your dog or cat food. So that animal is already dead from disease. Okay, that just angers me. That just angers me, especially because, again, getting back to the marketing tactics of the big pet food manufacturers that I was talking about in the first episode of this podcast, or this season, season 7, they'll place a big old piece of juicy red meat on the bag with a bunch of, healthy and delicious and vibrant colored fruits and vegetables and sweet potatoes and stuff like that, because they want you to believe that's what's in the bag. But it could actually be a diseased animal that your dog is getting a part of. And as I indicated, that angers me. It should anger you as well. Because once again, it's not cheap, right? And we work hard for our money, and we want what's best for our dogs and our cats. And we're being bamboozled, by some of these companies. Not all, but some of these companies that are making these pet food products. Now, the interesting fact about a pet food label, dog food, cat food, is it happens to be a legal document. Okay. But again, there's shades of gray. There's definitely interesting twists and turns that take place on these labels in terms of the ingredients or how the ingredients are laid out in the list of ingredients, which can be very, very deceptive. So I'm trying to help you today learn how to read this legal document on the back of your dog food bag and know what to look for so you're not being bamboozled too. Okay, so on every let's just say kibble, every dog food bag, the label has to include the name of the product, the brand, whether it's what species it's appropriate for, a list of the ingredients, the guaranteed analysis, the nutritional adequacy statement, feeding directions, a calorie statement, and it should have the manufacturer's information on there as well. And I'm going to incorporate a picture in the show notes if I can, so you can see what I'm talking about. But I did print it out there. Just going to hold that up for you so you could see. That's a pretty good label right there. Okay, and it has everything that it should legally have on there. Now, ironically, pet food labels, they basically provide limited nutritional information, and They only really focus on the basic or minimum nutrient levels. All right, so let's jump into the ingredient analysis portion of the label. Now, this in and of itself can be pretty overwhelming and confusing, especially when words are being used that don't even sound like something your dog should be eating, or you're seeing something like ingredients splitting, which I will get into. But the ingredient analysis is actually the most important part of the dog food label. And all ingredients must be listed in descending order according to weight. And each ingredient must be listed individually. All right. And this kind of helps with the ingredient splitting here, it's really pretty sleazy. But again, I'm going to get into that in a second. And they also have to be listed according to the AAFCO regulations, and I'm going to read it right here. Terms describing collective ingredients, such as animal protein product, are not allowed. In addition, ingredients must be listed by their common or usual name. The AAFCO has detailed list of ingredients, their common names, and what they contain. All right, so I'm going to give you some tips on what you should be looking for in the ingredient analysis. You want to be looking for protein, fiber, fat, and water. Okay, and the breakdown of that should be listed in the guaranteed analysis. Okay, that's the part of the pet food label that kind of looks like a report card, if you will. And again, it tells you how much protein, how much fat, how much fiber, and how much water is in the bag or can of dog food, along with some other additional information. For example, the protein part. If it says on the bag that it contains 10% protein, the guaranteed analysis will make sure that it reads 10% protein. And the guaranteed analysis is also designed to make sure that your dog is not missing important nutrients. The idea is so you could look at that guaranteed analysis and be assured that it is completely balanced and has everything that your dog needs. That's what it's supposed to do. All right, back to the ingredients. When you start looking at the list of ingredients, the first few are by far the most significant in the whole bag of kibble or can of food, or however it is, however it is you're feeding your dog. But the first few ingredients are the most important, and you want them to be the highest quality, since they're the most. They make up the most of the bag. I'll just stick with kibble, since they make up the most of the bag of food. Okay, so typically the very first ingredient is the meat source, whether it be like beef or chicken or whatever, and you really want that to say beef or chicken, not meat byproduct or meal or something along those lines. You really want it to be that one ingredient: beef, chicken, duck, venison, whatever, but you don't want it to say meat byproduct or meal. All right, that's diluting the quality of the food down when it's being broken down into like a meat byproduct or a meal. Now, that's not to say all byproduct is bad. I mean, liver is a byproduct, right? Like from a chicken liver, beef liver, whatever. That's a byproduct, and it certainly isn't bad. But most byproducts are empty byproducts with no real nutritional value for your dog. And they're just used as fillers because they're readily available and they're cheap. Okay, and you want to look for ingredients like real beef, real chicken, real rabbit, real duck that are going to provide nutritional value for your dog. All right. Now I'm going to let you in on a little dirty secret here. Let's talk about ingredient splitting, because I just mentioned to you that the first few ingredients are the most important, and you want that beef or real meat to be predominant. Okay, the predominant source of protein, that is. Ingredient splitting. It's a common practice in the pet food industry where they split like it's pretty much a cheaper ingredient like peas into several different smaller components. Okay, like you might see, I wrote a couple down here, like pea powder, pea protein, peas, pea starch. I mean, you may see like sub ingredients like that, but they're all really peas, okay, or a derivative of peas. So you're looking at this bag and you're thinking, I'm getting this much beef in this bag, and this is going to be great for my dog. But really, what you're getting is a lot of peas in that bag, but they're just listed. They're just listed differently. They're not like, because if they just said peas, then that would be the number one ingredient. This is why I think ingredient splitting is just really, it's really seedy and it's really deceptive. Again, because you're not seeing on the bag a bunch of peas. You might see some peas, but primarily it's that big old juicy piece of red meat or chicken breast or whatever that, takes center stage. But then when you actually start reading the ingredients, and you may see it, like I said, excuse me, pea protein, pea flour, pea starch, pea fiber, peas. Wheat is another one that they'll do that with. Corn is another one, another ingredient that they'll ingredient split on the label. Okay. Again, the reason that they do that is because they're masking the presence of all the peas or corn or wheat that are taking up a bulk of the ingredients on the label and in that bag of dog food, to maximize profits, while they're basically diluting the quality of the food. And what's worse is, your dog could have allergies or food sensitivity. And then here, peas could be one of those things that your dog's allergic to. And then he's being inundated with pea product in this bag of food, and you don't even realize it because you haven't really read the label to see that there's all these, different smaller components of peas in that bag of dog food. So, and two, what's worse is the fact that it totally takes away from meeting your dog's nutritional needs when basically this is allowed to happen. So look at it this way. You buy a bag of food. It has meat byproduct or meat meal or something like that as the first ingredient. And then it has a slew of these smaller pea components: pea protein, pea flour, pea starch, pea fiber, peas. So basically then what your dog is eating is 80% peas and 20% poor quality meat. No wonder there's such a high rate of things like allergies, autoimmune disease, and even cancer. All right, here's another thing about the ingredient list. The further down you go, the smaller the ingredient is in the bag. So let's just say one of their marketing techniques is, loaded with antioxidants. And of course, on the bag, they have pictures of blueberries or something. Nice, lush, juicy, plump blueberries and you're thinking, oh, you know, blueberries are good, right? Loaded with antioxidants, just going to be great for your dog, lots of vitamins and stuff like that, and you're feeling good about it. But let's just say it's listed way far down after salt. And I'm going to get into salt here in a second. Well, you could have, you know, like I said in the other podcast, you could have a 40-pound bag of kibble with, you know, a blueberry in it, basically. It's like, that's nothing really. But again, it's in there, right? You stuck that one blueberry in that bag, you know, mixed it all up with all the rest of the food, cooked the crap out of it. And yeah, they put it in there. No doubt about that. But it's not going to be any benefit. Your dog's not going to get any benefit from it like you're thinking they're going to get. So be mindful of that. The further down the list of ingredients, the smaller the amount in the bag is. Now I'm going to tell you about the salt divider rule. Okay. The salt divider rule was coined by Dr. Marion Nestle. And I'm going to read it to you. Essentially, it says that because pet foods generally use similar formulas set by AAFCO standards, consumers can establish a rule of thumb. Any ingredient that follows salt in the ingredient label must make up less than 1% of the diet. Okay? Any ingredient after salt only makes up 1% of the diet. All right? So that's what I was telling you about the blueberry. If it comes after salt, you got one blueberry in a 40-pound bag of food. Okay, so I just want to back up a second. I don't want you thinking I'm hating on peas or anything like that. They do have nutritional values such as manganese, phytonutrients, and fiber. But just like anything, they do need to be served in moderation, and they certainly shouldn't be making up 80% of our dog's meal. Okay, so before I move on to the nutritional adequacy statement, I do want to read something else to you from AAFCO. So it's all in the wording, okay? There's more to the product name than clever marketing. The name will actually give you the first clue about the ingredients. Because so many pet owners base their buying decision on specific ingredients, brands will try to highlight the ingredients in the product name, but it's all in the wording. AAFCO has 4 rules. Here we go. The 95% rule. At least 95% of the product must be the named ingredient. For example, chicken for dogs or salmon for cats. Must be at least 95% of chicken or salmon, respectively. In addition, this main product must be at least 70% of the total product when counting the added water. That's typically for canned food. According to AAFCO regulations, the remaining 5% of the ingredients will be those required for nutritional reasons such as vitamins and minerals and a small amount of any other ingredient. All right, that's the 95% rule. That's a pretty good rule. All right, the 25% rule. When you see products named beef dinner for dogs, chicken and sweet potato entree, or lamb platter, for example, this is the 25% rule in action. If the named ingredients comprise at least 25% of the product, not counting the water for processing, but less than 95%, the product must include a qualifying term such as dinner, entree, or platter. Okay? Counting the added water, the named ingredient still must comprise 10% of the product. If more than one ingredient is included in the dinner, the combination of the named ingredients must total 25% of the product and be listed in the same order found in the ingredients. Okay, so basically, any bag or can of dog food, cat food, whatever, that has meal, platter, or entree most likely only contains about 25% of meat, and we're not even sure really whether that's quality meat or not, unless it is canned with water, then about 10%, which makes the meat almost non-existent for our dogs. I mean, really, like, what is in that food? That's horrible, horrible. All right, so you're best to stick with one meat source that should be 95% of the ingredients. Or possibly two meat sources, like maybe chicken and duck or something like that, but they still should equal 95% of the ingredients. Okay, rule number 3 is the with rule, WITH rule, and I'm going to read it to you. When you see a dog food label such as doggy dinner with beef, the with ingredient needs to only be 3% of the product. Just the addition of the one word with dramatically changes the percent requirement of the ingredient in dog food and is a good reason to pay attention to the product name. With. Remember that, okay? You need to steer clear of that one, that's for sure. Okay, because if your dog's only getting 3% of meat in that bag of food, that means the rest of it is just filled with junk. The peas, pea starch, pea protein, pea powder, corn, wheat, all that stuff. That's just awful. That's just freaking terrible. And so it just makes me sick. It really does, how deceptive some of these larger food manufacturer companies are. And the last one is the flavor rule. And I'm going to read it to you. Again, I'm reading these right to you. These aren't my words. These are AFCO's. The flavor rule. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, if the label says beef flavor dog food, then a specific percentage of the beef is not required, but the product must contain an amount sufficient to be able to be detected. In this example, the word flavor must appear on the label in the same size, style, and color as the word beef. Okay, what the hell? I'm just appalled. I'm appalled. Really, just mind blown, appalled. If the bag reads flavor like chicken flavor, then there doesn't have to be any chicken in the ingredient at all. It's just something minute just to be detected, basically. So who knows? And who knows what even, so there's nothing in there. It's just something that they flavored to taste like chicken, and it's most likely soy or corn or wheat or something along those lines, or roadkill. Who the hell knows at this point? I don't even know. And we don't even know what the flavoring is made out of. I mean, it could be broth of some sort. It could be a byproduct of some sort. It could even be a chemical. That just makes me so mad. That just makes me so mad. And this is exactly why you have to know how to read the bag, all right? Because I think a lot of us just go in the store, grab what we're used to, don't even read that back ingredients analysis, or the guarantee analysis, or the nutritional adequacy statement, or whatever. And we need to. We really do. And we have to know how to break down the ingredient label and know things like ingredient splitting and the salt rule and the salt rule divider and things of that nature, folks. Flavoring, not even dog food. It's not even dog food. All right, so we're going to move on to the nutritional adequacy statement. I actually had to take like a break there because I was just so heated. I mean, I've already put all this information together, but it still makes me angry when I don't like being bamboozled. Me personally, I do not like being bamboozled at all, and I certainly don't like being bamboozled when furry family that I care for it could potentially be harmed as a result of someone else's greed. And that just really got me upset. So I needed to take a break for a minute. All right. So basically, the nutritional adequacy statement, it's telling you the amount of nutrition the dog food contains. And of course, many claim to be completely balanced or 100% nutritious, things of that nature, marketing terms of that nature. But they're not really just marketing terms in the nutritional adequacy statement, because it's supposed to mean that the food has met a specific government standard and actually does provide a complete balanced nutrition for all stages of an adult dog's life, or for puppies or seniors or cats. And basically, they have to prove that the food does contain a proper amount of the ratio of essential nutrients for the needs of the dog, for the needs of the dog to be healthy. Okay, and as I just mentioned there, oftentimes the nutritional adequacy statement does identify the life stage the food is appropriate for. For instance, like I just mentioned, it could be all life stages, or puppies, like growth, or weight maintenance, or senior and geriatric. But ironically, that's not really true for seniors and geriatric dogs, because this is from the FDA. Okay, I'm going to read this to you from the FDA. There is little information as to the true diet needs of these more specific uses, and no rules governing these types of statements have been established. Thus, a senior diet must meet the requirements for adult maintenance, but no more. All right. So when you think you're buying that big old bag of dog food for your aging dog, it may have the nutritional adequacy statement on the back, but it just has to be for an adult dog. It really doesn't have to be for a senior dog. And if it's from the big conglomerate pet food manufacturers, it probably doesn't. All right, next up on the label will be the feeding guidelines and directions. And just a little fun fact for you, the feeding directions and guidelines, they're not regulated. Regardless of what the package says, they're not regulated. But this portion of the label, it's really straightforward. I'm sure you've all seen it. The label tells you how much food your dog should be having daily, based on their weight, their size, their activity level, things of that nature. But of course, we all know that there are other factors that may influence their food intake, whether it may be they have something like a thyroid issue that's, or Cushing's disease or something along those lines. So, for instance, I have Nona and Savvy here, and they're about the same weight. They're both about 80-pound German Shepherds. They're both around the same age, 11, 12 years old. Nona actually gets a little bit more than Savvy in terms of food, because she burns it off quicker, and she's a little more neurotic. she's definitely more nervous. Anytime a dog, any of the other residents get up, or I get up or something, she automatically jumps up and thinks we're doing something, where Savvy really doesn't. So this is subjective, the feeding guidelines, all right? And oftentimes on the label itself, it will give you really like about maybe a quarter of a cup to a half a cup playroom for like, an 80-pound dog or something like that. So it's pretty straightforward, this part of the label. All right, but basically, these guidelines are also put into place to ensure that your dog's nutritional needs are being met. And basically, they're saying if you have an 80-pound dog, they're most likely going to need 4.5 cups of this kibble every day to make sure that those nutritional needs are met. But again, if you're buying a low quality dog food, they're probably not being met anyway. This is why I really, really stress if, first of all, home cook or even raw, dehydrated, freeze-dried, all those good variations of dog food. But if you are going to do kibble or canned, I'm not opposed to canned, but if you are going to do kibble or canned, mostly kibble, please make sure it is a high quality bag of food with a single source of protein or two, like I said, chicken or duck, not with a whole bunch of split ingredients, not with the antioxidants listed below salt. You want to make sure it's what you're thinking you're getting, and you're able to feel good about giving it to your dog. And the protein part, it's just so important. It's where they get their amino acids from. It helps with maintenance and growth, especially for puppies, growth of muscle tissue, organs, and other body structures, and energy. That's where they get their energy to play and exercise. So you want to make sure they're getting high quality protein in their dog food, especially because, like I mentioned before with kibble, I mean, it's just, unfortunately, again, cooked at such a high rate and a high temperature that it's really, depleting nutrients as they're processing it. So, got to make sure that bag is the highest quality you could possibly get. All right, so how much protein? Now, I wrote this down, depending on your dog's age. You'll be looking at a minimum of 18 to 29% protein in your dog's diet. Adult dogs need 18 to 25% protein, while growing puppies need more protein, like 29%. All right. So, again, I really push for the home cooked because I know where that meat is coming from. All right. It's a healthy protein source. And I want to say this, and I'm going to circle this right now. There we go. Dogfoodadvisor.com. If you're not sure about the reading the label and all that stuff, go to dogfoodadvisor.com, and they have a search bar that you could put in the dog food, the kibble that you're using, and it will give you a star rating about it, whether it's a good dog food, whether it's a middle of the road, whether it's a low quality, and it will give you the nutritional breakdown. And it will even tell you about ingredients that are like questionable, whether they should be in your dog's food at all. So yeah, if you're curious and you just want to know, I love that. I love that website. And if you signed up for their newsletter, you will be in the know like that when there's a dog food recall or dog treat recall. So, and I think they're even trying to come out with a catfoodadvisor.com, which I would absolutely love. So dogfoodadvisor.com. They're phenomenal. Okay. Just want to touch base on a couple other things about the label. Okay, and the first one is fats and carbohydrates, which do play an important role in our dog's diet and overall health. Fats, of course, provide energy and aid in digestion, and carbohydrates are also a source of fuel and fiber. So fats are important because they contain essential fatty acids that can't be produced by our dog's bodies. And these fatty acids help with the health of their skin and coat. I have a couple of residents here that have issues big time with that Atticus and Brutus constantly. Actually, their coat is good. It's their skin that's definitely rough, and I'm always trying to put like salmon oil in their food or something along those lines. And green lipped mussel. That's another one. That's our favorite one, green lipped mussel. And of course, essential fatty acids also help with the immune system and their brain health. And I have little Mr. Brutus standing here right now, looking at me, going, "Did I miss the evening walk?" His brain is sharp. He knows he missed it. But obviously, whether, we don't want bad fat. So, but if it's a good fat, obviously, we still have to have some sort of balance, because even too much of a good fat is not good. And on that note, I'm not opposed to animal fats, like a good quality beef fat, as long as it's grass-fed, pasture-raised, grass-fed, and not grain-fed. There is a difference. Saturated fats provide our dogs, just like us. They provide our dog with energy and vitamins like A, D, E, and K. But again, too much saturated fat is it could lead to health problems, just like it could with us, whether it's grass-fed or not. And I just want to touch base on that for a second. So I think there is a difference, whether it's grass-fed or grain-fed. Grain-fed beef can cause a host of problems, like chronic inflammation. So I try to stay away from that as much as possible. Anyone who knows me knows I buy beef from a farmer. I even buy Wyoming beef and have it shipped here, because I know where it's coming from. I trust the people who are raising the cattle, that they are doing exactly what they say they are doing. That it's grassed, prairie raised, grass fed, grass finished, and that's important to me. So I use that for myself and Mr. Woody's Place and the residents here of Woody's Place. But all in all, I mean, I would say the best way to go would be with essential fatty acids, which are polyunsaturated fats, for your dog's health. Again, that would be like omega-3s and some omega-6. Again, we like green-lipped mussel. Eggs is another great source, but pasture-raised eggs, again, I know people think I'm just kooky when I start talking about this, but it is true. So I've had chickens for a very, very long time now, and my chickens are just out. They're just out. They're in a building right now because it's dark outside. I do lock them up at night, but during the day, they're just out. They're just out with the goats, doing chicken things, while the goats do goat things. And they have we literally have buildings they can go into if it's raining or inclement weather. There's places for them to hide if there's predators. We're all fenced in here, and then we have areas that are fenced in. Anyway, I don't even want to get on that topic, but the reason I say pasture raised eggs for omega-3 fatty acids is because when you buy eggs at the grocery store, number one, I hate to break it to you, they're old. Try to do the float test sometime. If your egg floats, it's old. It's like 30 days or more, which I think is kind of gross. But anyway, they have less cholesterol in them because chickens truly are happier when they're just strutting around doing their thing without too much confining them, without too much stress. They don't produce as much cortisol as they do when they're factory factory farm raised chickens, you know, in this 12 by 12 or 14 by 14 area with 2 or 3 other chickens, you know, stepping all over each other and stuff like that, or smashed in these buildings, which they, you know, claim are cage free. Okay, they're not in cages, but they're still smashed into these buildings that they can't even walk around, and they're diseased, and you know, some of them are dying even. It's just terrible. So those eggs are not as healthy. This is why so many people are jumping on the bandwagon of getting chickens. Part of the reason, I should say. Because they know that farm fresh eggs really are healthier. You can tell just by the yolk itself. In the store, when you get the yolk, they kind of look yellow, just pale, like anemic looking. That's not how they're supposed to look. They're supposed to be like an orange color. And that's how our eggs are here. And I feel really good about providing them to my family, myself, my family, and to the residents of Woody's place. So if you're going to use eggs as a source of omega-3 fatty acids, try to get them from a local farmer if you don't have your own eggs. Literally, just go to a farm stand if you can and buy them from the farmer directly, or somebody who might have a backyard flock that you might know about. Yes, you're going to pay a little bit more, but they certainly are better for you and your dog. So you want to aim for about 10% of your of healthy fats for your dog's total daily diet. All right, about 10%. Now, as for carbohydrates, you want to avoid starchy carbohydrates like potatoes or white rice and stuff like that. I mean, I know people want to do white rice if their dog is sick, maybe has some GI upset or whatever. Try to do brown rice instead of white rice. But if that's all you have, then that's okay. But you don't want to do that on a regular basis. But approximately 5 to 10% tops of complex carbohydrates in your dog's diet is fine. That would be things like oatmeal and quinoa. I love doing oatmeal and quinoa for the dogs, and they love it too. So stick with the complex carbohydrates. I mean, if you think about it, it's just like us. They're better for us too. And the last thing is, it's a red flag for me. It's any sort of artificial additives and preservatives. Okay, we all know that there are potential implications to our dog's health when there are things like additives and preservatives listed in the ingredients and found in the food itself. Now, of course, you're going to find them in kibble because they're used to extend the shelf life of the kibble itself. So they kind of go hand in hand, additives, preservatives, and kibble. But that's still not a good thing, all right? Just because it's convenient and it can be on the shelf for 20 years and be fine until you open it doesn't mean that it's good for our dogs. You know, these synthetic compounds, they've been linked to a lot of health issues in our dogs, organ damage, inflammation, and the big one, cancer. I mean, canine cancer is just sky high right now, folks. And it's not a coincidence. It's not. It correlates directly to what our dogs are eating. Food is medicine for us and for our dogs. And I understand kibble is convenient, but there is a price to pay for it. All right, so just to recap, okay, the dog food label format, again, the product brand name, that's on there. Quality in terms of product weight, liquid measurements, depending on the formulation of the food, whether it's kibble or dry. It's got the guaranteed analysis, which I went over, the ingredients, the nutritional adequacy statement, feeding instructions, manufacturer's name and address, and the caloric statement is typically on there, or should be. All right. So I know this was a lot, and I tried to cover as much as I could. I mean, I really could have gone into a lot more. I have notes all over my desk right here, like literally just notes all over the place because I was just trying to remember everything. And I've gone on for almost an hour now. But literally, your dog's life depends on this. I mean, I don't mean to sound so dramatic or whatever, but it is true. Your dog's life depends on your ability to not only select a dog food, but also to break down that label and know what's what you want and what you should avoid, and how much to give in a day. To make sure that all of their nutritional needs are being met, right? You want to look for the quality protein that I was telling you about, either one, but no more than two. All right. You want to avoid things that say meal, entree, dinner, things of that nature, flavoring. You want to stay away from stuff like that. You want to stay away from additives and preservatives that you can't even pronounce, because I can almost guarantee you it's pronouncing cancer. All right. You just want to stay away from things like that. You want to stay away from the hidden fillers that I was telling you about, the splitting of the ingredients to make it look like you have less. Well, you only have a little bit of pea protein and a little bit of pea starch and a little bit of pea powder, but at the end of the day, that little bit is actually most of the food. All right, you want to stay away from stuff like that, and you want to know how to recognize it when you're reading the label. Okay. And if you have any questions, you can message me. You can reach out to me. It's fine. I'll try to help you as much as I can. For those of you who don't know, I am a race certified pet nutrition coach. All right. I'm so glad that's over. I just want to get into the fun stuff, making homemade food and telling you all how I do it, and hoping and praying that you'll be able to incorporate that into your dog's diet as well. And again, I get the whole kibble thing. I still use it some too. I do. I mean, I think I mentioned the last really 14 days have been very, very hard for me. Personally, we had some family things going on. I had my grandson here for 14 days on his spring break. I'm a college student at Penn State again. I decided to go back to college, and I had 3 midterms in the last week, and I hosted Easter brunch on Sunday. There was a lot of stuff going on. I've been dealing with back problems. I have a bulging disc in my back that's been bothering me. There's been a lot that's been going on. So I have relied more on kibble in the last 14 days than I have in a very long time. We do use Fromm. It is a high quality kibble, but I've mentioned it before. The very process of making the kibble itself kind of like sucks all the nutrients out, and then they put it back in a synthetic form, which isn't so great. But I still do, like when I'm doing like the kibble, I'll put canned on top, and it's usually a higher end canned. Or I do home cooked, and I give them all like home cooked on top of the kibble. But it's hard. I get it. It's really hard. But if you can even provide your dog with a few home cooked meals a week, that would be fantastic. That would extend his life. Really, it will, because he's getting those whole nutrients that you are providing him with. And not only does it make him feel better, it makes you feel better too. And one thing we're going to talk about moving forward is not every freaking meal you cook for your dog has to be perfectly nutritionally balanced. I don't care what some of these influencers online are saying. This is why people don't do it, because they get so overwhelmed with what they can use, what they can't use, measuring this, measuring that they're just like, I can't even deal with that. I've got enough on my plate. Every meal does not have to be perfectly nutritionally balanced for your dog. It's not for us, right? And we're here. But you do want to aim for meeting their nutritional needs within a certain amount of time, like a week or something like that. And we're going to talk about it, okay? But I had to cover this first. These are all my notes. Double-sided. I don't know. Probably got about 10 pages here, but I am so glad that's over. And I hope this helped you. And until next time, be well.